everybody. Welcome back to Death of the Chef. This is episode 4, where we turn culinary monstrosities into hopeful masterpieces. Today we are looking at My Condolences to the Chef, a dish by Hugo, which is constituted of tortilla chips in this case. The initial dish was barbecue chips. Hugo is deeply displeased about this. Cheese sticks, barbecue rub, because we don't have the barbecue rub for the chips, and a combination of barbecue and hot sauce. So join us as we thoroughly poison ourselves on Death of the Chef. Start today's episode, we are going to be making the dish itself, the Condolences to the Chef. So, initially, it used potato barbecue chips. We don't have those, so what we're going to do is take the tortilla chips, which we're going to use for the significantly better version. We're going to take those. Are they crushed up chips?
Indeed.
To what degree would you like them pulverized?
As much as possible.
As much as possible.
I did it in the chip bag.
Lucky for you, I'm filled with wrath, anger, and displeasement from my day. So we're just gonna... That hurts, like a significant amount.
Yeah, I did it in the bag.
Ah, that was a good idea. I'm regretting my choices. Is that satisfactory?
Yeah.
Yeah? Alright. We'll clean the table after. Now, I suppose it does aid in the fact that these are already pulverized. We're going to take some barbecue rub that I made earlier, some red pepper, onion and garlic powder, salt, a little bit of parsley, all of that fun stuff, typical barbecue flavors. We'll throw a little bit of that in, just mix it to combine to try to emulate your barbecue flavors from before. It's not going to work. It doesn't matter. There's no quality in this, so therefore you don't need to adhere to strictness. Hugo looks very upset, but I am not sorry for anything I have to say. Now we're going to take our cheese sticks, 2 mozzarella cheese sticks. You're going to open them up. You're going to lay one down, and then you're going to repeat the very same process as you open up your second one, or try to, and make a fool out of yourself, such as me. You are going to lay the second one down. Directly adjacent is the second layer of chips crushed.
Yes.
To the same degree.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Some scooping back onto the top might be necessary as well.
Understood. And then we crush. This hurts just as much as the first time around. And then you just... We'll take some of our chips from the bottom, throw them over top. This table's clean. We'll just throw a little of that on there. And then the rest of our barbecue rub. And while this may appear monstrosity enough upon its own, we are not done. We are never done until we hit the microwave. So we're here, and we did this on episode 1. We'll do it again. I've never hated this appliance as much as I did when we started this. It's 45 seconds. I don't think there's any scientific notation for that, so you just have to start, and then you wait.
It's popping, yeah.
Oh my god. Wait, hang on, let me see.
No, I think this is fine.
Time has elapsed. I don't know. It's not even opening. The microwave doesn't want us to eat this. I quit. It smells so terrible, Hugo. I'm sorry. What does that? Why does cheese does? I didn't know that cheese sticks could become concave. Evidently, it's possible and pungent. We've got barbecue and hot sauce, roughly 50-50. And now we attack it with a spoon, I guess. Oh, okay, it's partially solidified. Ugh. Oh, it's still so stretchy. I don't want to put this in my body. I don't want that much cheese. Ugh. This one. How is this one significantly stretchier? Things you guys make me do. it's tough. Like, not only is the mentality of getting through it tough, but it is physically a challenging thing to consume. It's not the worst. It's really not the worst. But it's so far below the best, or even below the good, or the mediocre. I think the smell just makes me want to remove this from existence. Get to eat it now, I guess.
How do you feel?
It did not please my refined palate, but it did not actively harm me.
Every time I go on Death as Chef, I feel like I understand Hugo better.
I feel pretty good, I'll be honest.
For a new Hugo culinary enjoyer, I feel like I'm doing alright.
Alright, I suppose. I mean, was a little energizing, I suppose. I don't know.
I wouldn't eat it again unless there was some outside incentive.
How did it taste?
Not necessarily great. It was fine at first, and then the cheese hit me. It was salty. It tasted pointless. Everything about this is pointless.
That tasted bad initially, but tasted pretty good afterwards.
Pretty spicy. I got a lot of the sauce.
The tortilla chips instead of potato chips didn't make as much of an impact as I thought it would. I don't know why the cheese was concave though. That did not happen for me. The cheese was like melty and such.
For the second bite I took, because I did take a second bite, it got good faster.
It was tough, which surprised me.
I have spent and will spend every day of the rest of my life thankful that Hugo never bothers to actually learn how to cook on stovetop or with enough.
Hugo made the statement, you don't know why it was concave. Because it was in the microwave for 45 seconds. That'll do scary things to cheese. It was leathery, it was tough. I feel like its aroma and pungency translated into flavor in a way I just can't describe properly. Every time I step into the kitchen, those fond childhood memories of cheese sticks lost forever. Because I microwaved it for 45 seconds. I don't think I can forgive myself. I don't think I'll be able to forgive Hugo. I think that's lost. All right, well, now that we've purged that from our minds, bodies, and systems, we're going to do something actually quite fun. We are going to make nachos, not just standard nachos, barbecue chicken nachos with homemade queso and salsa. So, let's get started. All right, so to begin, we are going to make the barbecue sauce for our barbecue chicken, just because that's going to take a while to cook down and get into our nice thick syrupy consistency. So to start, we are going to take roughly 1 cup of ketchup as our base. Scoop all of that into your pot, which is not on at the moment, which is why nothing is melting out of existence and we're not dying from carcinogenic fumes. So important to keep that in mind. About a 1/2 cup of apple cider vinegar, pour that in. 1/2 cup to 3/4 of a cup of packed light brown sugar, again added. Do a couple squirts of lime juice. Tablespoon or 2 of mustard. That was probably a bit more, but that's okay. Some cayenne or paprika just to taste, so that's purely user preference depending on your spice tolerance. A couple cloves worth of garlic and a 1/2 cup of water. Then you're going to turn your oven on, or your stove, to medium heat. Just stir all of that together, and then you're just going to let it cook down for a while. So we're going to make what would typically be a salsa roja. My tomatoes are orange, so it's a salsa anaranjado now. So that's fine. But to start, we're going to begin, obviously, with our tomatoes, because this is going to be finished off in the food processor. We are really just going to do a very rough chop, again, because everything is going in the food processor. So it's going to be broken down. Inconsistencies are okay as well, because that's what's going to give us our chunky salsa consistency. So again, just bisecting it, then slicing, which will be ultimately, again, processed into a delicious amalgam, saying it correctly this time, of onion, olive oil, a little bit of vinegar, tomatoes, And because I don't have a jalapeno, we will use one small, de-seeded, deveined ghost pepper. Give it a little bit of heat without hopefully killing everybody, because from experience, ghost pepper, eating it raw whole, not a good idea. Do not recommend that experience. So don't do that with your time. We are now going to process our salsa, so we're going to take all of our tomatoes, throw them into our lovely, lovely food processor. Again, very roughly chopped because this is the point of salsa. Take your yellow onion, kind of cram it in there. We've got some pre-sliced red onion, which my hands are too wet to open. This is a struggle. Take one of your 20 paper towels, open it up that way. Throw in an undisclosed amount. It's really dealer's choice. That's maybe a little under a quarter cup. A few squirts once more of lime juice. And then you're gonna take maybe a clove, 2 cloves of garlic, a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of your ghost pepper. This is hotter than I anticipated, so be careful with that. Some cilantro, and we will add salt afterwards to taste. So you're gonna throw on your lid if you have one like I do. Set it to the chop setting rather than the puree. And then just pulse it very roughly a few times until you've got a mixture that is just homogeneous enough. And then have a little bit of fun with it too. And then you end up with salsa. So the dominant part here, there's a very important test to figure out if your salsa is good. Very based in science. You take your spoon, you take, oh, I don't know, just a little spoonful like this, and then you eat it. And then you think, what does it need? Ours obviously needs a little bit of salt. But aside from that, it's got really great flavors, so we are just gonna cap it off. Ooh, that was a lot of bit of salt. So we are just gonna grab that, take a little bit out, and then throw this back on. Because it's already very processed, you wanna be really careful with how much you do it from here, because otherwise you end up with more of a paste than a salsa. And then that's it. You have salsa. Look at you go. And taste. And you find out it's delicious. So, good job. Now you have salsa. Alright, so for the next step, we're going to make our queso, which is going to go with everything else. So to start, we're going to make a roux to build it upon. So what that entails is first getting a little bit of butter. We took roughly 2 tablespoons and just cooking it over medium heat for a little bit. That's going to drive out some of the excess moisture that's in butter, which is going to give you a thicker roux rather than a thin one. We're going to take an equal part of flour. You're going to dump it in, whisk that around, and cook it until all of the raw flour smell has been driven off, about 2 minutes. And you've got a nice thickening substance, for lack of a better word. Again, we just want to make sure all that raw flour taste and smell is going to be cooked out of it first. So that just entails whisking rather constantly. Okay. Now we're going to take about 1.5 cups of cold milk, and we're just slowly going to stream it in a little bit at a time to prevent clumping. If your pan is too hot, the cold milk is going to help cool that down rather rapidly. Try not to spill it on your stovetop like I just did. Again, a little bit at a time. Stir it in so it doesn't clump up, which it very well may do, so just be prepared. And then you'll add a bit more. Now that we've fully emulsified and incorporated our milk, you're gonna take your cheese. We've shredded some Monterey Jack, queso fresco, and some mozzarella. Just gonna throw all of that right on in. So you can see we've got a variety of drier and slightly more hydrated cheeses, all of which are going to lend different flavors and complexities to the overall queso once they are melted. So you're going to turn that down to low a bit, just to not over stress the cheese itself. Again, you want to shred your own cheese though. The pre-shredded stuff, as we talked about on the show before, has a lot of declumping agents that are going to mean that your cheese doesn't really melt into as smooth a consistency as it otherwise would. So if you are like myself and end up with a thin queso and would like one that is thicker, a very common remedy for sauces to make them thicker is to use something like cornstarch, which will, should it be cooked, not change the flavor all that much, but just generally help your sauce to clump up. So just add a little bit, because again, you don't want large clumps of the cornstarch, you just want it to act as a way to kind of bind your sauce together. The cornstarch is just going to do a little better than our flour did at the very beginning when we made our roux. So just add a little bit, mix it, add a bit more if you need to.
2, 1, go.
I didn't know nachos could take this long, but we're here. We're in our final assembly. After this, we get to chuck it in the oven and forget for like 10 to 15 minutes. So let's get going. We're just going to lay down a base of our tortilla chips, not potato chips this time intentionally. Then we are going to take a handful of some pre-grated Monterey Jack cheese, throw that over top, take a ladle full of our wonderful queso, and just kind of spoon that over top. Trust me, it tastes better than it looks. Which you probably shouldn't have to say when you're talking about food, but who cares? I made this so I get to be as awful a person as I want. Take some of your barbecue chicken. There's probably a much better way to go about grabbing it. This is how I feel like doing it. So you know what? No one is allowed to judge. And then, now that that has been added, you can take some red onions, throw those over top. Then we're gonna do layer number 2, because nachos should always be layered. Any nacho worth its salt is. And then you're just gonna take the rest of this here cheese, because we're not gonna need it ever again. Throw it on top. Try to get as much as you can because cheese is wonderful. You're gonna take some more of your queso. Throw that over top. And then you're gonna take your red onions, throw those on top. Take the rest of your barbecue chicken, which is just some shredded chicken mixed with the barbecue sauce that we finished cooking down from earlier. And to hell with it, I'm grabbing it with my hands because I don't care. And you guys can suffer from the 10 different communicable diseases that come from it. Then, some final finishing touches. We're gonna put some pickled jalapenos on there, something that can be easily removed, but for those who enjoy them, are gonna be really a nice touch of dichotomy and flavor that we otherwise wouldn't have had. And then, because we never have enough cheese in this world, you can take some cotija cheese, if you have it, and just crumble it over top. This cheese isn't much of a melter, so that's why it wasn't with all of our other gratings, but it's going to brown up a little bit, look really nice, taste really nice. But again, if we added it throughout the rest of it, it would just kind of clump up and be a generally dissatisfactory experience. And I just realized I zoned out for all of the last few things that I said, so I don't know if they make any semblance of sense. From here, we're gonna throw this situation into the oven for 10-15 minutes, and then we'll be all set. All right, so it's come out of the 375 degree oven for about 10 minutes, and we threw it under the broiler for another minute and a half just to get some browning. Topped it off with some of our salsa, a little bit of cilantro to make it look like this is chefy, and then I put it on a hot plate because this is about 400 degrees. So, after all of our hard work, all of this time, took much more than nachos really should, we get to taste test. So, I'm going to do just that and try not to touch the plate in the process. Get a chip that has a little bit of everything. Get some salsa. Those are some genuinely stellar nachos. A vast degree of flavors from the cheese. The chips got a little soggy, but that's to be expected with all of the cheese. Barbecue's nice, sweet, tangy. Same with the jalapenos. The salsa's a nice, refreshing balance to go with all of that. So I think it wholeheartedly redeems what we just did. So now you guys get to try it.
How do you feel?
Better. Significantly. I feel genuinely good, which is a odd occurrence for this show.
I feel just fine. It was pretty good food. In fact, very good food, I'd say.
I feel excellent. I got to have like a 6.5 out of 10 meal, like some bites of it. And then I got to have like a 9 out of 10 meal. It was a very good jump.
Refreshed mainly. Not to say that Hugo's was bad. I very much understand where he was coming from when he made it. But that was a great meal.
How did it taste?
Very good. I've never been much of a nacho fan. I mean, they're generally just fine. But these were very good. Thanks, Shane.
That absolutely was my favorite Death of a Chef meal. Also, probably in my top 5, top 10, maybe top 1 nachos.
It was so good. The cheese was like pretty complicated, but not like the kind of complicated that I can't deal with because my taste buds are too good. Um, but it was so good. The chips went great with it. The salsa was great, and I don't usually like homemade salsa. And the spice was like just the right amount, and the sweetness of the chicken kind of messed with me a bit, but then I adapted, and it was great.
So much better. Those are probably the best nachos I've had. I was gonna say in a while, but that's probably just the best nachos I've had. Whereas the original could not be described as like, normal food. So, big improvement.
Today was a very rainy day. It was weirdly tiring. Filming was a bit much. So the satisfaction of seeing everybody really enjoy it and tasting it and realizing that it was quite delicious, some of the best nachos I've had, made me quite happy. Once again, thank you everybody for coming, joining us for episode 4 of Death of the Chef. We've made it through 4 episodes, so that's wild. Yeah, thank you for joining us. We will see you next week for our next abomination. Adios.